Thing controls if they're
Jimmy and JoAnne, I think our viewers are going to wonder how I made it back here so quickly. I was just on a little tour of New York City trying to figure out what is going on here. We've been getting a lot of mixed signals from the president and from our government representatives. How are you guys doing there in Texas?
Great, and we're glad to see you're not bleeding from your eyeballs and everything else from your trip around New York. So
We were watching you.
What
That
did you
was
think
cute.
that the Beretta store, it was closed?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
if you need to buy some boots or a backpack or something, I would think that's the place. But
Yeah, I don't think they have
you're
any
gonna have
guns
to go
there.
outlaw and go to New Jersey. If you want to get some lead delivery system.
Exactly. It does seem like that's not exactly the place. But we're just about ready to start our sponsor exclusive show. I think most people know that every Monday night we're doing a special show. You two have both been to Libya, and you are, of course, the best source of human intelligence that the United States has ever had. You speak on a regular basis with the Libyan tribes, and we're hearing so much about the coronavirus pandemic. What's happening in Libya with coronavirus?
Well, the coronavirus is not in Libya right now. There's nobody there that has it. They had a suspected case, two suspected cases. They turned out to be negative. But I spoke to the probably four different Libyans today. I spoke to Dr. Mufta, who's our good friend, and some other sheikhs and some other people, and they said no, there's no virus in Libya. They have closed all their borders. They have closed all their ports, all their airports, all their ports. Because there's coronavirus, there's 20 cases in Tunisia. Woo, big.
We talked to
Yeah.
Tunisia, to Egypt, to Algeria, Syria. Here's the rundown of the cases. Tunisia's got 20. Algeria's got 28 cases. Egypt, 50 cases. Syria, maybe 100. And the worldwide, the number that we're seeing is probably the real number is 6,400. And of course, the thing that everybody needs to really look at, go look at what the official agencies around the world are saying about it. And it's I think that this, as I said 3 weeks ago, Jason, you remember we've been way ahead of the curve on this. And 3 weeks ago, I said, in my opinion, this is going to be the excuse to try to cover up the crash of all the markets, because that was imminent. And that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing shutdowns, and we're seeing extraordinary procedures for something that we're not seeing it in the public.
Well, it's the flu or cold. Coronavirus is the
Yeah.
flu, is the cold virus. One of them, I think rhinovirus is another one. But the tribes told me today they understand completely. They said, we know this is not anything. We know that. We understand that 30 some thousand people die of the flu. They don't make a big deal out of that, and we don't have any cases here. But what Mufta said, and he was happy about this, he said, if they close all the airports and all the ports and all the ingress and egress, he said maybe we can stop Turkey from bringing in all those mercenaries. So they're happy about that.
Here's something I want everybody to recognize and realize. Every day, 18,000 children in the world die of starvation. Not a damn thing's being done about that. There's a lot of speechifying. But if the governments of the world really want to address a problem, let's go address that one where there's proof positive. 18,000 young people every day die of starvation. That can be taken care of. And in the 5 counties around us, Texas is a big place, 25 or 26 million. It's the second most populated state in the U.S. Of the 5 or 6 counties around us, not one case. Not one case. All the hospitals are open. Everybody's in business. The stores still have plenty of inventory and everything. And there's not this pandemic fear going on here because the Texans have been awake a long time.
Texas is the 10th largest economy in the world, and they could, if they closed all the borders to Texas can exist easily by itself. It produces everything it needs, so people they don't panic here. We were at a doctor's appointment last week, and they made us sign, both of us sign a form that we didn't have a cold, we didn't have a cough, we didn't have a fever, We didn't have runny nose. We didn't have this. We didn't have that. And we didn't have to sign it. We just had to say no, 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 and then give it back to him, and then we could come in.
Doctor said he's required to do that. He said, this is a lot of fluff, but he said, we have to pay attention because that's where we get our orders. So,
yeah, he gave us a virus bump with his hand like this.
I'm surprised he didn't make you sign a document promising not to mess with Texas. I've always heard that that's a requirement.
Well, I think everybody in Texas, we pretty well prove that by our open carry laws.
Yeah.
Everybody here can carry a gun openly if they want. People have them hanging in the back of the window of their pickup trucks.
When they have any of these shooters like that one in that church up in Fort Worth, the guy shot 3 or 4 guys in the church stood up and shot him.
Yeah.
He was just dead. I mean, that was the end of the shooting.
It's a little crazy to try to do a public shooting in Texas and not expect. I mean, basically everybody knows everybody in Texas has a gun. And there was some Japanese general or something who they interviewed for a documentary many years after World War II. And I think he said something to the effect that the Japanese were very concerned about an invasion of the U.S. mainland because they figured every single person had guns.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of people in the United States that have guns. They say there's probably 300 million guns, owners of guns in the United States. And I don't know what they said, a trillion pieces of ammunition in the hands of the Americans. So it's the biggest army in the world, and some time ago, Jason, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we had a Canadian friend of ours. I think he's since passed away, but he said, I want you to tell anybody you go on the radio to, he said, please tell them, keep your guns because you are our last hope for
America's
the world.
Last hope.
He said it's the last hope. The rest of us gave up our ability to defend ourselves. So he said, we Canadians, we understand that.
So I think, Jimmy and JoAnne, people want to know what is happening there where you are in Texas. How has life changed over the past few days? I mean, we've been seeing some of these walking tours around New York City. It's quite different. The reduction in the number of people on the streets, the businesses that are open, the availability of toilet tissue, all of these things went out the window over what I agree seems like just the normal sort of annual strain of flu.
It's a media-demic.
Yeah, but we in Texas we finally figured out why there was this big demand on toilet paper around the country, because we saw a guy in California, he sneezed and 20 people crapped their pants. So they all scared to death. So but no, this is so much, and this is evil that the media has been allowed to do this, because you need to address the problem. Wash your hands. If the guy next door has a cold, you don't go and eat at his dinner table. Common sense is the best defense against this. But this is really on a scale from 1 to 10. According to the World Health Organizations, it's about a 2. So it's not deadly. There may be a couple of weaponized versions. You mentioned this earlier, Jason. There may be a couple of weaponized versions of this that are floating around there, but we're not seeing them here. When we were attacked in November, Jason, they may have hit us.
When you and JoAnne were attacked.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm still suffering from that. JoAnne got over it in a hurry because she's got a lot more robust system than I do. But, the thing is, we cannot depend on any of our agencies to defend us. And if there was really if there was an agency doing its job, then we could have some more legitimacy. But just this week, up jumps the devil, and the FBI lost all of General Flynn's documents.
Yeah, well, that looks like it's going to work out quite well for General Flynn. It seems like Sidney Powell is making headway, and Trump tweeted that he's considering a full pardon. Seems like a good turn for the general.
He should have done that about 30 minutes after he found out the charges were phony. But the other thing, how can you depend on any of our agencies that are so irresponsible that they phony up something and then lose all the proof, and they cover each other's backside?
When they did a criminal act, they just automatically lose everything. I wonder if that would work if you go into court. Oh, I lost all my documents. Sorry, I don't owe you any money anymore because I lost my document.
Yeah.
There you go.
But with all these reports that's coming out, we saw you in New York. You're a very brave guy, because you're walking out there unmasked. And New York was deserted. The country cannot survive without any economy taking place. You've got to have commerce. You've got to have people working. They've got to be earning money.
Who's going to pay for the lost money of all the restaurants, of all the like taxi drivers, of all the people that work in these establishments?
And here the Fed, this criminal organization, has doled out over $3 trillion last week, not to the people that are losing their ass, to their banks that they own.
Right.
You know,
and that taxi driver, the hot dog vendor, these guys aren't going to the bank to get a loan. They lose $200 a day, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. They can't pay their rent. Who knows what kind of place they're living in, if they have a lease, if they're legally protected. I don't know what's going on with these guys, but it seems to me.
No bailout for those guys, but the criminal banksters that are guilty of all this stuff, they're getting trillions pumped in all the time. So, you know, everybody wake up, pay attention to what really is happening. Don't believe what you're hearing, believe what you see in the street.
Well, you ask us what's going on here in Texas, Jason, and really, Jimmy and I live way out in the country. I mean, we're out on a dirt road, so we haven't noticed anything different. You know, for us, the little town we go up to get our mail at has a couple hundred people, and there's only one restaurant that's open anymore. There's one gas station, and that's it. There's nothing else.
We were at the bank today, and the gal said, well, you know, if they close, we'll still have window service. It's a tiny little bank, you know, it's the size of your bathroom. But she said, you know, if they close, we'll still have window service. So, you know, the world is functioning around here. And people are not, they don't have their bowels in an uproar. And
well, I see that Sam's has paper goods, but they are limiting 2 giant pieces to each person. You can't come and buy 500 of them. And, you know, my sister said in California, Costco had paper goods, but they are limiting it. You can't go there and go crazy, you know?
Right.
And so, no, I don't, for us here, the people, you know, everybody's this is very rural. So everybody kind of has been on their own for a long time.
This is the media. One of the symptoms of this virus is not diarrhea.
Right. Yeah. So the buying of the paper products makes very little sense.
Yeah. No, we could always go way back to the pioneer days when they had, you know, outhouses, and my mother said they used to use like Sears catalogs.
Ooh.
That was what they used. And she said the slick pages were really bad. You want to avoid
and when you really get in a bind, do not get any spiky leaves to work with. You know, that's not a good thing.
And they used to use leaves, but you have to be careful. You don't want to get the 3-pronged leaves. That's like poison oak, you know.
Corn cob. That was another one. Ouch.
Yeah, they used to use corn cobs.
Okay, I think we can change the topic away from this. We're going to be going just in a little while over to Patreon and Subscribestar, where people can join us. I've been getting some emails from people. People have been apologizing for reducing their sponsorship. There is no apology necessary. I actually want to extend a special thank you to the people who have reduced and stayed sponsors. There are some people who have left. I totally understand. Everybody is feeling a lot of uncertainty right now. And the most important thing for me is that anybody who's watching us is safe and secure, and their family is secure. I mean, when I go around and I talk to these guys who are selling hot dogs, driving taxis, these are people who are really going to get pinched by this. We've spoken about it quite a bit. Last night we had Governor Cuomo deliver a speech, and when he got to the part where he was talking about how they want to involve the private sector, I felt like that was the most important part to him. I think about guys like Joe Biden, and I think about how many pharmaceutical and medical equipment company executives must go to dinners with this guy and take him on golf trips and really, really, really want to sell a lot of respirators to New York State. They want to get the Army Corps of Engineers over here to build a hospital. I mean, look, if these things are necessary, I'm all for them. But I just feel like there's so many odd and sketchy details about this whole thing.
Manipulation.
It's manipulation.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Tom McGregor in China, who said that things are getting back to normal. He finally went out to a bar last night. I mean, I didn't ask him if he's back on the bat soup diet, but it seems like this end of the world catastrophe is kind of coming to an end in China.
Yeah, Jason, I'm gonna try to defend our position and encourage everybody to stay supporters of our, because what we've done is we've brought forward proof of the phony financial system, of the imminent crash. We've given you guidelines to really use your own abilities to research and look at what the markets really are instead of what we hear from all the pundits. And I would encourage everybody to continue to watch our programs, because we do have a lot of special information. And we are, again, tonight going to provide some good details about what the markets, what's really happening, our opinions about why they happen. And we've been right on point really for 9 or 10 years now. And so we encourage everybody to stay with us. It's not a lot of money. It's a cup of coffee, but the information we're providing, we think, is worth a couple of dollars a month.
Well, also, this goes back to the reason Libya was destroyed, the gold-backed dinar. It's the same, follow the money, you know. They could kill Gaddafi and destroy the country. They can't do that to the world. So what they've done is made a virus. And the virus has everybody looking at it thanks to the media, while over here, what they have done, screwed up everything with their petrodollar. They're not ever going to take the blame for destroying the economies in the world. What they're going to do is blame it on the coronavirus. And so, you know, it really goes back to oil. So we're going to talk about that.
We'll cover all that.
Right. We'll talk some more about Putin's basically strong-arm negotiations at the OPEC Plus meeting. We spoke a bit about this last week. And, you know, it's interesting. After you guys were telling me about it, I noticed a lot of the mainstream reporting, you know, the usual suspects, they were all basically blaming Putin, saying that, you know.
Yeah. Putin caused the world decline. Putin demanded this. Putin did that. All Putin says was, I'm not going to play your game anymore. That's it.
Right.
Russia hadn't sanctioned anybody. The United States has sanctioned more than a third of the world. The United States has occupational forces, 1,000 military bases, and another third of the world. And the other third doesn't count. So, you know, you can really look at where the evil empire rests and what we're doing to the rest of the world. And you know, the world is finally pushing back. And the fact that this phony petrodollar, and, you know, we could spend hours just defining how the petrodollar became the hammer that the Federal Reserve used to beat up every other country in the world. And the petrodollar is a dead issue. And that was killed. The final nails were put in the coffin by Russia when they refused to reduce their oil production.
Well, they produced the marginal barrel.
They produced the marginal barrel at $20 a barrel. And that is the factor, and nobody can change that. While all the markets are going crazy, and, you know, when you got all the soft goods going down in value, then your hard goods, gold, silver, and platinum, should be going up. It should be a cross. It's not happening. Gold, silver, and platinum are going down. So anybody with any sense has got to say there's something wrong with those graphs.
It's a fix.
Yeah, it's a fix. And one of the biggest metal suppliers in the United States, been in business for 40 or 50 years, they had the biggest week they've ever had in their existence, and they're now a month to deliver gold, silver, and platinum that they've sold, and they're not going to be able to replenish their gold ounce coins for over a month.
Why is gold going down?
Because it's a control market, Jason.
It's a fix. It's not a free market.
The same banksters that own the Federal Reserve, the Bank of New York, Citibank, all the banks are owned by these same banking families. London Metal Exchange, the Bank of England, all the central banks are owned by Rothschild, Rockefeller, Medici. These 7 banking cartel, Khazarian mafia own all these entities.
And it's a cartel. Like they set the price of diamonds. They set the price of, you know, it's not a free market.
And the metal prices are set in London. They've got so much hubris, they fix the price. They even call it the fix. All metals are set by the first London fix, the second London fix. Go to your bookie and ask him if he wants to fix a race for you. You know, I mean, it's the same kind of criminality. It's a fix. Wake up.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into this and more when we get over to Patreon and Subscribestar. We're going to head there right now. I want to remind people who are perhaps seeing Jimmy and JoAnne for the first time people can visit their website, LibyanWarTheTruth.com. You can also sponsor them on Patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. And sponsors of the Moriartys can purchase the DVD. It's a $15 DVD. You're going to get free shipping if you sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on Patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. The DVD contains photos, videos, and other documents that Jimmy and JoAnne either took themselves or collected from the people that they came in contact with there in Libya, and it contains tons of information about their amazing escape from Al-Qaeda, the only people known to have escaped from Al-Qaeda. Jimmy and JoAnne will be back in just under 10 minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar, and we'll continue this conversation. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Jason.